Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2 of our Star Trek Week podcast. This is Star Trek Week at the State of the Nerd Union, where we're talking about Star Trek all week long, because it is the Star Trek convention this weekend, the best convention, the convention you should be at, in Las Vegas. Once again, I am the host of the State of the Nerd Union, Zach Nichols. Joined with me, as almost always, Trevor Law, our political expert. And continuing on from our previous discussion, we have our two very special guests, Joanie Brosas, cosplayer extraordinaire, and Dan the Man, the second most famous non-famous person I know.
Hello.
Everyone here are super big Trekkies, and we're ready to get our Trek on. You better check yourself before you Trek yourself. Let's talk about the top 10 must-see TNG episodes, and we'll get that out of the way now. It's the top 10 must-see TNG, not the top 10 best, but you gotta see it. Alright, so Dan, let's kick things off with a top 10 episode of the TNG, The Next Generation, featuring the greatest captain there is, Captain Picard.
So I'm just going to throw out one of my favorite episodes of all time, and that's Measure of a Man.
Oh, one of mine.
Yes! That is like my favorite TNG episode.
That is my favorite TNG episode. Yeah, you guys can jump in since it sounds like it's on both of your guys' lists.
This one I was going to write a review on this week, but I just don't have time. I think it is, like, when I was talking to one of my ex-girlfriends a few years ago, and I was going to show her an episode of any Star Trek, this is the one I wanted to see, because it qualifies itself the best out of Star Trek's mission, which is used as an allegory of the exploration of space, is really to explore the human condition. And this episode does it best.
Seek out new life.
Yes. By examining what this new life does it qualify as new life? It asks us to look inside ourselves to ask the question of what is it about us that is beyond this crude material of blood and bones and muscle that is really inside of us, that drives us to live and be and exist. What gives us this consciousness? What is it about us that makes us us? And that's the great episode that questions, is Data alive or is he property? And it makes us look at, if there's something inside ourselves that's there, there's something inside all of us that's there. So it once again brings up that question of racism and equality and all of that, because you're able to look at someone else, and if you got that inside you, then they have it inside them, and there's no difference there anymore.
And then it asks the really deep, sort of booming question throughout the entire episode is, what is a soul? Like, how do you define that? How do you quantify what is a soul? What really is a person? Because we define it as humans, but when you get out into space, when you start dealing with other forms of life form, when you start making artificial intelligence, where do you draw the line? What makes somebody a person? And it's just so great. And you have Riker, who's forced to defend, or who's forced to attack Data, who his friend, who he doesn't want to do this. And Data shows a moment of incredible compassion at the end of the episode, where he says, you attacked me because if you didn't do your best, then the entire trial wouldn't have gone through and I would have lost anyway. You showed me more compassion than anyone I've ever met.
Which, it's, in a way, is the most human of anything in there.
Like, and it's amazing. It's such a great episode. I love that episode.
Yeah, I think every episode that has anything to do with the Prime Directive can pretty much be linked back to that court ruling and that decision made. I love that episode. Like I said, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It's that powerful, that amazing. Also, just as an episode and just as a TNG fan, this is one of the early times you see how much of an impactful character Whoopi Goldberg is as Guinan, too, which I love. It's a short scene, but sets a tone for her character for the entire series. But yeah, like I said, I could talk for an hour just on this episode and have goosebumps the whole time. Fantastic episode.
This is quintessentially, when I wrote down any episodes of my top 10s, this is the first one I came up with.
It was one of my first. I think it was like the third episode I came up with. Just phenomenally good episode.
Just all the way around, Measure of a Man, wonderful, and everything everyone just said.
Yeah.
All right, Trevor, so throw something out there, please.
All right, I'm going to go with one that is either like it has to be on everyone's number one for a lot of these lists, or extremely high, and that is Best of Both Worlds.
Yes!
Because one, it is the first two-parter episode in Star Trek history. Two, it is the first time...
Well, what about Encounter at Farpoint?
That's technically a two-parter.
That actually launched, though, as a one-part episode, though.
Oh, okay.
Originally, so, yeah.
Okay. It is the first cliffhanger.
And, like, they turned the hero into the villain. They ruined him. They broke him. Like, they didn't beat him. They didn't beat Picard. They broke him. And that, like, you've got this unstoppable, uncaring, unfeeling threat that is rolling through the galaxy. No one can stop them. Your hero, the guy who's been able to figure out everything, they beat him. They broke him. And that emotional resonance for it, and that what inevitably saves him is a tear, is their unwillingness to give up on him. It's so good. It is so good.
So, I have to bring up something from each part of this episode, because we're going to count it as one part.
It's a two-parter, but it is one episode.
So, in part one, the season 3 finale, I think they do an amazing job of building up this real questionable ending where you don't fully believe that Picard's going to come back from this, because they do such a great job of building up Riker to take his place. And Riker has got his subordinate to where he's got his number one in case he does take over. You believe Riker's in it there, and at the ending, the last word said is fire. He's firing on Captain Picard. He is firing on it. You believe that Picard is lost. Picard is gone. Okay, but part 2, after you find out that they do get on the ship and they do find a way to get Picard back, it's the last 5 minutes, the most quiet of the entire 2-part episode, of where it's just Picard and Riker talking, and he's still got this one little piece of metal attached to his face, really symbolizing the effect of he will never be the same again. He's got this attached to him. It's inside him. It's changed him forever. He has committed the Wolf 359 atrocity where he has killed so many of his people.
40 ships.
Yeah. And that last final moment, which is him staring through the window, and it's one of the rare times you get an outside look of the Enterprise D looking inward, of you see inside the window and you see him with the Earth reflecting against him. And the great importance of this shot is the distance, the emotional distance that resonates through Picard as he's looking on the Earth, seeing, I don't even feel human anymore.
And I don't know if this was the intent, but boy, does it feel like it. Is that they're talking about PTSD. That the entire thing is just war scars you. Because that was a war. That was a straight up war. And it scars you and it changes you. And sometimes it's external, but boy, is it always internal. And so good. I'm getting a little misty.
So this is definitely, I agree, one of my favorites. It's one of the most enjoyable episodes of Next Gen you can watch, as far as just, it's really, I view it as the first episode that they could have made a full-length motion picture based off these 2 episodes, and it would have been successful.
It would have been amazing.
It would have been amazing. Also, First Contact would have never happened if Best of Both Worlds didn't happen.
Which is really the only great TNG movie.
Yeah.
My
favorite.
favorite.
It is the best TNG movie.
Absolutely love it.
And it wouldn't have happened if Best of Both Worlds didn't happen. It's a great action-packed, psychological. There's so much entertainment value. And in a world of Star Trek where a lot of the episodes are good, they're deep, but maybe not on the entertaining scale, this one is, for sure. Like I said, they could have made a full-length, big-budget movie based off these 2 episodes, or the 2-parter, easily. And, yeah, fantastic. Definitely makes my list.
It's got everything you could want in an entire episode. All right, so that's going on the list. We're already consistent. Number 1, 2, Measure of a Man, Best of Both Worlds. So I'm going to follow this one up with its follow-up, because I think that the episode that follows it is just as good as those 2. Family.
Yeah.
Season 4, Episode 2. Now, this one's a very different episode because it's so quiet. It's so different. And all it is Picard going home to the vineyard back in France to visit his brother and his nephew. And he tries to fill himself up with the work to take his mind off of things. But it's only in the greatness of the episode is really in that last 5 minutes where he's talking to his brother and he just utterly breaks down. And you truly finally see, after he allows himself to feel it, about I've killed all these people. I committed murder. They forced me to. I tried to stop it, but I wasn't strong enough. And he blames himself for it.
Absolutely.
That he wasn't strong enough to stop this. And that other break where the only time that he can allow himself to heal is by allowing himself to feel it. Which is really, if we're going to keep going with that PTSD comments, it's about moving on and living allowing yourself to live in a world where that's a part of you. That's happened. And not just putting it down and burying it.
Dan, you got anything?
Yeah. Yeah. So for Family, for me, actually, I was just talking about this earlier with Joanie. I love the episode. It's my style of episode that I like. It personally doesn't make the top 10 for me. You guys are probably going to yell at me and scream, like all the big eyes. It's a great.
I already wrote it down, bro.
It is a great episode. Actually, you will get it still on the list because I know Joanie loves that episode. It is a fantastic episode. It does go back to the kind of the slower based, psychological based, and after this big boom, best of both worlds, it gets you back into that feel of this psychological show that Next Gen was meant to be. Great, very powerful episode, for sure.
It shows you how human he still is.
Yeah,
I think,
it's kind of like Journey to Babel, but for Picard. It really dives in, and he is for the first few seasons, he's kind of a mystery of a character. You learn a little bit about him, but about Riker. And
he's hard.
You get Data, and you get Crusher, you get all those things, but he is very hard to crack shell, and Family is kind of his revealing point. Good episode, for sure.
When he allows himself to break, and you finally see that exposure.
My favorite part is actually when his brothers, because Picard's been very robotic and at the same time knee-jerking, and he's not acting like his brother. And John Paul just looks over at him and says, "What the hell did they do to you up there?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it all falls apart.
Yeah.
And it's such a great episode.
That last scene is really what sells it.
Because they're fighting and they're wrestling in the mud and they're laughing.
And then after he hit that one shot where he goes from I'm laughing, we're laughing, I'm laughing, the emotion is out there and it just breaks down and it just goes straight from laughter to just Shakespearean tears.
Mm-hmm.
I just gotta say, I love how Zach wrote it down immediately after his preliminary argument.
Well, I said, yeah. Trevor was nodding. Oh yes, and you were like, oh yes, and I'm like, Family. There's no way somebody would vote against Family.
Yeah.
And
the guy who voted against Family was like, I think this is one of the better episodes.
No, I love it. But in 7 seasons, I have 10 that are better. I love that episode. But I love 30, 40 episodes. I love.
Oh, yeah. This one's going to be a lot harder than the last one. And I think, and you know what? Trev agrees with me. I agree with me, or at least I should. And I think Joanie agrees with me.
Yes. Well, and it's kind of, when you think about it, it's kind of one of the episodes that you need to watch after an episode, because sometimes in Next Gen you're able to watch whatever episode. It doesn't really matter. You don't necessarily need a backstory.
You have to go from best of both worlds
to
Family.
Almost.
It really is.
And that's another thing I really loved about the episode is that they too often in Star Trek, and this isn't even a criticism. This is how episodic shows are. Is that once it's done, there's no consequences to what's happened.
Yeah, there's no backtracking. It's just
but Family, this was real. This changed everyone.
Yeah,
let's deal with it.
Kind of like an inside joke. You won't get it if you see it. You're like, I get half of it, but it's almost a 3-parter. That's cool. I like that.
So Okay, I'm willing to concede we can take it off if we're just going to put it on there Best of Both Worlds / Family. If we put it on there, as a 3-parter.
If you guys agree, I think it should be considered.
All right.
Because even without Best of Both Worlds, it's a good standalone episode. It really is.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So it's going on there since we all voted. Joanie, would you like to throw anything out there?
And so this is because I'm an original series girl, and I loved original series. So this one would be The Naked Now. And it's weird because I love original series so much, but I liked this episode better, and I think they did it better. It's The Naked Time. It's kind of the sister episode to that, The Naked Now. So I really liked it because Data gets laid.
Oh, yeah.
Crusher and Picard are just up against a wall, and they're really dramatic.
Oh, yeah. Crusher and Picard are great in that episode.
It's just so funny, and everybody's like hitting on everybody, and everyone's kind of sleazy, but it's such a fun episode. It's just something to enjoy and kind of like, it doesn't necessarily teach you anything, but it is just something kind of like a Ryza episode, just like breath of fresh air, let's laugh a little.
All right.
Trevor, opinions?
The moment in Measure of a Man where Picard gets Data to try and describe his relationship, and he says, I promised that I wouldn't say that, and he says, let's just do it for this purpose, and he says, we were intimate. That wouldn't happen if it wasn't for The Naked Now. It's a cool, impactful episode. It's a fun episode, and again, it's the same, dynamic in the original series. And yeah, it's a great episode where you see relationship. The Beverly Crusher and the Picard relationship that you see there is amazing.
Oh my gosh, and Wesley is hilarious. He's just so funny in that episode, and you actually kind of see his genius. I know a lot of people don't like him, but that episode kind of made me really like him because he was funny, and it was funny to see his counterpart because we watched the original series kind of right before that. So it was just fun to see the dynamic and the changes they made, but he was still goofy and shutting people out and kind of controlling and acting as captain. It was kind of fun.
Trevor?
I like it. I like their points, but there's so many better episodes at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which the only thing I can say is that it's got its merits, and honestly, the whole Data and Tasha Yar it's the best part of the whole episode, to be quite honest. But we're talking about the top 10 must-see Next Generation episodes. If we were talking about top 10 original series, then we can debate, as we did, The Naked Time. Whereas The Naked Now, it doesn't personify Next Generation at all. It really, it feels out of ordinary because it is got that original series flair, that kind of weird campiness.
Yeah, I feel like they used that episode to kind of reel in the original series. If you weren't convinced by now, here's something for you guys because we still love you guys and we want you to watch this episode now, or this season now, you know?
It's a great callback, but, I mean, there are so many other ones that happen in there with, like, the arrivals of Spock and Scotty, and there are other callbacks to the original series, but this one, it doesn't thematically, it doesn't, in the feel of the show, it doesn't fit with TNG.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. It's
when like TOS is a lot more campy, weird, out there.
Well,
TNG is a lot more, as Dan keeps saying, psychological. It's a lot more debating about philosophy and understanding true out there cultures. It's a fun episode. I wouldn't say it's top 10.
It'd be a must-see for an original series fan, but not necessarily a must-see for everybody.
Yeah, there's just so many other great episodes that really personify what makes TNG great.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll write it to the side, The Naked Now. And then I'm going to make a little side note. Data, get some. All right. Moving on.
Next.
Dan the Man, what you got?
Okay, so this is kind of, I guess, along the lines of Best of Both Worlds, but later on in the series. One of my favorites is another two-parter, Chain of Command.
ha!
Yes, it's on mine.
What was that laugh for?
Because I was literally that was on my list, and I was just looking up it. Yeah, Chain of Command.
It's basically
it's in season 5,
but you see I guess Patrick Stewart's acting in it more. The whole him getting tortured, it's just amazing. He actually won or I don't know if he won an award or he got there was some big article written about his acting by critics and that, and it was very acclaimed for his acting. And I just like the episode. I like it's really a good, good view of the Cardassians in that episode. It's action-packed. You see the crew with this captain. It's not like Best of Both Worlds where they had this kind of antagonist lieutenant commander on the ship. They literally had a new captain on the Enterprise, and Troy was trying to talk to him, and everyone, Riker was getting upset. It was really just a cool episode, and I can't say enough about Picard getting in his torture scenes are amazing, and David Warner as the Cardassian, he was fantastic in that episode. Just a great episode. You guys can jump in, so it sounds like you guys like it too.
I don't know how you could be so mistaken. Just
I want to just say a lot of the same things you just said, but Patrick Stewart's acting is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he is a Royal Shakespeare Company actor, and he's done some amazing things throughout his career on stage. This, I think, is probably one of his highlights of the entire series, as especially going from someone who is so, not pomp and circumstance, but so proper. Mm-hmm. That's the Picard character, always proper. The way he sits, the way he drinks his tea, Earl Grey hot. In every aspect of the way he carries himself. And you just slowly see him stripped, literally and metaphorically, down to the bare bones.
Oh, yeah.
Of this and I love how the show accomplishes and it takes on something so taboo of prisoners of war and torture. Something that nobody wants to talk about, nobody wants to look at and to watch, but you're forced to watch your favorite, or my favorite character, be utterly dehumanized, and you can see this dehumanization going on, especially when a child Cardassian comes in the room. And when you see him break down to the point where he eats that rotten egg. And I think the best part of all of it would be the very ending when...
Oh my goodness, yes.
When they're talking about it, and he's having a debriefing, and he says that I saw 5 lights. I saw 5.
Yeah, he literally talks about, I would have said anything. I would have said anything to make it stop. He was fully broken. Like, I love the part where he's just about to get escorted out after he screams, there are 4 lights. And he walks away literally like he's in, the movie Gothica or something. He's completely hunched over, broken, limping, and the Cardassians try and almost assist him. They're just trying to help him out and grab his arms. And he flails them off and shrugs them off. I love the whole ending. The last 10 minutes of that episode are so good.
Almost like The Deer Hunter. Like, that's the only other time I can think about a movie or a film or a show accomplishing this topic so well.
And when he is leaning up, and when he's talking to Counselor Troy, she's like basically trying to make sure that he is emotionally stable.
Which he isn't.
No, he is not. And so she's like, well, that's perfectly understandable that you would be willing to say anything to make it stop. He said, no, you don't understand. By the end of it, I saw 5 lights. Like,
this is one of those
so gutsy, so dark, so incredible to take that on. So good.
I totally agree.
All right. We've got 4 already. Measure of a Man, Best of Both Worlds, Family, and Chain of Command. All of them are phenomenal. I forgot whose turn it is to throw something out there. I think it's Trevor? Okay.
All right. So this one might start the fighting, which is good. Q Who.
Which Q episode is that?
That is the one where Q tries to join the crew of the Enterprise, and they toss him, and he's like, we don't need you. We don't need your help. Q's like, fine. You don't need me? Fine. And he throws them into Borg space.
So I got to say, I'm just jumping in while Zach's exasperated. This is one of my top 10, for sure. You're not starting too much of an argument with me. I love that episode. Again, shows Patrick Stewart's great acting. I love the scene at the end where he's going, "We are frightened. Like, we need you." He really.
That scene where he.
Yeah,
yes.
it's just a great scene. I love that episode. It's your first showing of the Borg, for one. It has a great element. Everybody in the crew has kind of an element in that episode. It's a great episode. Patrick Stewart's acting is phenomenal in that episode again, especially for such an early episode. I loved Guinan in that episode.
Yeah, you really start to get a feel for why Guinan is the way she is.
First time Guinan was in the ready room too, by the way, in that episode. First time, and they're kind of like, "Why is Guinan here?" And you know, that is part of where Picard started getting such a trust in Guinan. Was that episode, and where he in later episodes says, "I trust her impeccably," yada yada. All comes from Q-Who. Really good episode. I love it. Love it.
Joanie, what's your opinions on it?
I was watching it the other day, but I was at work. And I only got to see bits and pieces of it. But because there's the Borg in it, and I am a huge fan of the Borg, I go yes. Does that count?
It does. I love the episode. It's not in my top 10, but I'm being voted out here. So Q-Who. Q-Who. Q-Who? Who.
Q-Who.
Q-Who. Q. I can't say it.
It's your turn.
That one. All right. Q-Who. Q-Who? Q-Who. Anyway. All right. So there are so many other good episodes I want to talk about. All right. All Good Things.
This is not on my list. Let me.
Fine.
Yeah, tell us a little about the episode.
The finale.
I know the finale.
Look at Trevor's face. I wish you guys could see this.
It's.
So I'm going to tell you the truth here, because it's an okay episode. It's not on my top 10. Yeah. I am very jaded about this episode because I remember it when I was a little kid that the show was coming to a close, and Next Gen was the only show when I was a kid that I was allowed to stay up late for. Mm-hmm. And so when it came to a close, I didn't get to stay up late anymore. No. So yeah, I was a little. I guess I always had to feel a little jaded by this show, and yeah, it's a good episode. It doesn't make my top 10.
I love it for it's the finale, and honestly, it's one of the finales of a show that I really enjoy. I mean, so many times as a finale of a show just doesn't turn out the way we want it to. You could debate 3 hours on just Lost. But this one, I love it, and it's got Q in it, and I love the book ending with Encounter at Farpoint with the judgment and the trial that says the trial is ongoing. And honestly, a lot of the future time travel stuff is just fun. I like the callbacks to the first episode, Encounter at Farpoint, where he's talking around. There's Tasha Yar showing up. Denise Crosby has come back, and she actually gets to portray her character again. Apparently, I'm the only one who's voting this, but
so for me,
I love All Good Things.
The true bookend is Data getting the Pinocchio joke in Generations. That's the true bookend to Farpoint.
No.
Yeah.
No. I'm not going to...
Well, hold on, wait. Was that joke said in Encounter at Farpoint?
Huh?
Was he told the joke in Encounter at Farpoint?
Yeah.
He didn't tell the joke. Riker called him Pinocchio. Yeah. And then in Generations, he starts hysterically laughing because he has his emotion chip. And he says, on Farpoint, I get it. Okay. That's the bookend.
I remember it, but it's like...
But no,
when I'm saying the bookend, I mean the Encounter in Farpoint Q... Bring them into saying, you are on trial for the sake of all humanity. Show me what you can do.
You won.
Yeah, okay. Well, no.
Apparently,
I'm the only one here who loves All Good Things this much, but I love it dearly, but apparently I'm the only one, so not on the list.
I would say we put it to the side.
It's okay.
Yeah, put it to the side. In fairness, I haven't watched it in about 3 years.
Oh, God.
Good episode, but...
I watched it probably 6 months ago. It's phenomenal, but
the thing
there are so many other great ones too.
every time I ever watch it, I always think to myself, I would rather be watching another episode. And that's okay.
Well, sadly, I pass it off to someone else.
Okay, Dan, I think it's your turn, or Joanie.
Is it Joanie?
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go with Inheritance. This episode, I watched it recently. It's a Data episode. I love Data.
Can you tell us about it? I can't remember it off the title.
You can probably explain.
Yeah,
it
Inheritance is the episode where Data meets his mom. So.
And she thinks she's human. She doesn't
he meets
know.
Dr. Noonien Singh's mate, who was another android, who believed she was human. Do you guys not remember the episode or no?
No,
I do.
Yeah.
I can't remember if this is the same episode where she kills the crystalline entity, or is that a different one?
No, it's where she like jumps off the cliff thing, and
she's a robot.
Yeah, and they can't, and she's programmed to like disable as soon as she could possibly know that she isn't a real human being. But at the end, that was one of the episodes that I was just watching it. I think I was walking in the room and I watched it, and I literally could not stop staring at the TV, and I couldn't stop crying because Data just, it's another one of those Data things where he's finding magic in the world, where he may not have emotion, but you feel his emotion for him.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
So, and I'll just kind of touch on this. I really like that episode. It's not my top 10 personally. But one, you see Data's going through those tough human decisions again, which every episode he has a tough human decision is a good episode. Two, his mom, this other android, is really the closest thing he has to becoming human. It's not Lore, it's not his brother in the universe. He's really meeting his, a representation of his mother, who's also an android, but has strived way more past him to being human.
He also makes a choice between telling her that she's an android and that he's not alone in the universe, or letting her live on as a human. And
that's a cool choice. Is he could not be alone in the universe anymore. Or he could make the right decision, which is let her go on thinking what she's been thinking. Pretty powerful. I like it.
Trevor?
I'm going to have to say no to this, but primarily because if we're doing a Data episode that deals with his family, it has to be Brothers.
I'm going to agree and disagree at the same time.
Because Brothers is... there's not that many Data lore episodes. There's not that many that deal with his family, but the ones that do, they're really big. Brothers, because you actually meet him. You meet soon, and lore is in it, and it really deals with. It's a good episode. I'm not going to knock it, but I think there's better representations of Data's internal conflicts.
Okay, since we're talking about Data episodes, is there any Data episode, we can just go out of turn here, unless you've got one...
Specifically Data family episodes.
Yeah, do you have one off the top of your head, Trevor?
Yeah, Brothers.
The episode Brothers, and that's the one where he finds Lore?
That is, well, no, that's...
Data Lore is where he finds Lore.
Yeah. It was a pretty cool episode.
Brothers is when Soon activates a homing beacon.
Oh, yes.
He takes over the entire Enterprise, and then he flies off, and the same beacon was in Lore. And so they both were brought back, and he built this emotion chip for Data as a gift for him. And Data finds out all of this stuff about his past. He finds out that he's not inferior. He finds out that he is the equal. A lot of great moments in that episode, and I would have to say, like, Brothers.
Oh.
So the one I had in mind, which is about Data and family, which is on my list, isn't about his brothers at all, and it's not about Soong, and it's not about his mom.
Oh, I know who this is.
It's his daughter, Offspring. Yeah. The episode where Data tries to procreate, and
it's such a sad episode.
As it's ongoing, you really see the affection that he can't feel for it, and in the words of Joanie, who put it so eloquently, that you start to feel for him because he can't feel for himself. And she starts to feel. And truly in those last 15 minutes or so where the doctor was looking at her and he says that Data was moving so fast he couldn't even see his hands anymore. Data was so desperately trying to save his daughter and ultimately failed. And that you really do feel that crushing failure of his father, of like, not as a father, but as his losing his daughter. As the only thing he ever wanted was family. And this is truly the closest successful family he's ever had. And unfortunately, he loses it.
And not to mention the fact that entire time that he was fighting tooth and nail to keep his family together.
Yeah.
That Starfleet was trying to take his daughter away.
Yeah, I mean, you could have titled this episode "Measure of a Man" too.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
That's something I was going to say, was that it's in a great way that's similar to Measure of a Man. It questions the same thing as what does it mean to be human through her. And through her asking all the great questions a child asks, why, what, why, and how.
Yeah, so like every great episode of Data, you know, learning to sneeze or learning to whistle or just learning anything, the little minute things human he learns throughout the whole series, you can pretty much get in that episode in 10 Forward with her. The scenes of her in 10 Forward, of Lal in 10 Forward, are great, of her learning, spilling drinks on people. And then, yeah, the ending where it's very much like Measure of a Man. Really, he's fighting for her, you know, right. It's a good episode, for sure.
So are any of these we want to vote for top 10? Now, all of them are great, but I think all of them fall short of Measure of a Man for that Pinnacle Data episode. I have Offspring on my list. He has Brothers.
It's not on my list, nor Brothers.
Neither one of those. Joanie, which was the one that you initially brought up? What was the name of it?
Inheritance.
And Dan, anything you want to bring up? Any of those episodes or?
No, I mean, if we're gonna go Data episode, I could throw one out there. It's not a family one, but none of those ones.
So we all have favorite Data episodes. Unfortunately, none of us agree that they're top 10 material.
Well,
we've all got our own favorite Data family episodes. So Data's great episodes out there, but none of them we can agree on.
Yeah,
I do have to say I was the one who suggested Measure of a Man first. You're welcome.
yeah.
Way to go! You got to it first. Okay.
All right, so what's next? Who's next?
I believe it was Dan's turn. We just kind of went out of order naming off Data. So.
All right. I guess going off this Picard theme a little bit that I've been going with, I'm going to say Tapestry.
Oh, yeah.
Also on mine.
Yeah. Tapestry is it's an episode with Q. It's kind of an altered universe. I mean, Q has such control of the episode, but it's basically about Picard's past, where he gets in a fight with the Nausicaans, and he has his artificial heart because of it. And it shows what his life would be like if he didn't live with the gusto he had in his past, and what would happen if he avoided that fight. And it's a pretty cool episode. I love the title. The title in itself I love. Yeah, it is one of my favorite episodes to watch. It's one of those episodes I can get a lot of entertainment value from. I love seeing Patrick Stewart acting as a younger self of him. It's fun to watch. I could watch this episode over and over.
And Patrick Stewart wearing a T-Walk. I don't know why, I just love that. But I completely...
Is that also the one where Patrick Stewart is laying in bed and Q, like, pops up next to him?
Yes!
So, like,
Yes. Yep, that is.
Which I think, I completely agree, this is on my list of my favorite episodes.
Mine too.
Obviously, I'm a Picard guy. For me, I think the main reason is that idea of going back and looking at past regrets and thinking like, man, I should have done things different. But if you do, who knows how different your life could have been. And that one decision of getting into that one fight, which caused an artificial heart in him, has changed so much over the years that he just completely changed as a person.
And it also, really deals with the question of your mistakes define you as much as your successes.
Yeah.
And so that stupid, boneheaded thing that he did that nearly got him killed is why he is who he is. It allowed him to keep that incredible drive, but never let him forget there are consequences for your actions. And, it's so great. It's so amazingly great. And it's such a great message. And it's one of those moments where you're like, this is Star Trek. This is great. Everything about it. I hit the tape.
I love the scene too where he's like Lieutenant Picard. I forgot what rank he has.
He's a lieutenant.
I think
He's
he's a
like
lieutenant.
like going nowhere lieutenant.
Yeah, and they basically, he's a good, a good officer, but he really shows no sign of assertiveness. And
Oh, Riker's telling him this.
yeah, Riker's telling him, and it's a great little scene where he almost feels so demoralized by hearing that.
And
it's a good scene.
one other great scene is the reenactment finally at the very end where he gets stabbed in the heart again, and he looks down and he just starts laughing. It's like, oh yeah,
Great ending.
I mean, it's so anti-Picard that we know from the future, but to look down and you see yourself stabbed and he just starts laughing, like, I don't know if it's the Picard of his youth. I don't know if he's laughing because he's returning back to the life that he wants to live and the life that he should live, or if it's his laughter of freedom that he thinks he's going to go back and die. I don't know why he laughs, but it's just that anti-character laugh where he looks down and just starts chuckling.
All right. It's a good one.
All right, so I think we're going with Tapestry.
Tapestry. I think Trevor's turn.
It is. All right. Once again, this might start a fight, but last time I said that, I was completely wrong, and everybody agreed with me,
Except for me, but that's
except
cool.
for you. Disaster. Disaster is a bit of an obscure episode, but it is one of my personal favorites. So what happens is the Enterprise is cruising along, and a stellar fragment hits it, and everybody is not where they normally are. So, like, you've got most of the bridge crew are in 10 forward. You've got Captain Picard who's giving a tour of the ship to a bunch of kids, and you've got Counselor Troy who's on the bridge, and Counselor Troy is forced to take command of the ship. Picard is forced to, with a broken, I think, leg, is forced to really take command of a bunch of kids. Worf is supposed to be a nurse, and he has to act like a nurse in the episode. It is putting everyone in their worst possible positions.
All right, I'm getting confused. I'm not sure if it's the same episode or not. Is this the episode where Picard has the 3 kids with him
That is
for
exactly.
Picard Day, and they sing Frere Jacques, and the girl's number 1?
Mhm.
Okay, this is the same episode.
That's the same episode. And in that same episode, you got Counselor Troy, who has to deal with the burdens of command for the first time in her entire career. And it's so you get to see a character who is the I sense they're aggressive captain, or like she's almost a silly character, and you see her in a real commanding role. And it really sparks these massive changes in a lot of these characters. And I really love it. I absolutely love that episode.
Dan?
So I didn't have this on my list originally, but now that he mentions it, I love this episode. I do. It's one of my favorites. And then as far as seeing the change of the character, you guys can maybe remind me. With Troy, was this before or after she was the transplant spy on the Romulan ship when she was a member of the Tal Shiar?
This is before.
This is before. Okay, so I can see how it could affect her abilities after that.
And
I know I really like this episode. It has some campiness to it. It's funny.
Mhm.
It puts a lot of the characters in awkward positions. I absolutely love it. I couldn't think of the name of this episode, but no, I love this episode. Absolutely. I vote for yes.
Dan votes yes. Trevor votes yes. Joanie?
Yeah. I like it.
I like it. It's not my top 10, but I'm going to vote it out again.
It wasn't on my top 10, but Trevor's explanation definitely reminded me how much I like that episode.
I can understand with how his explanation is very well put. It is. I can
It's a
understand
good episode.
the advancement of all the characters, and
Like
I like it, but
Star Trek is almost at its best when the characters are at their worst.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And
And
that's just the best example of it.
I always
Okay.
love episodes like that where they just change the character and you get to see a different portion of that character. It's really cool.
okay.
Yeah.
So Disaster's on there, number 7. We got 3 spots left.
Zach, it's your turn.
I only have a few words to say for this one.
Okay.
Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. Shaka, his eyes open.
When the walls fell.
Darmok and
Timba,
Jalad
his arms wide.
This
I-
episode is amazing. This
There's
is
just so
probably
many things you can say. Just
Yeah.
quoting it.
Oh,
it's not just from the quotability aspect, but I think it's really my favorite thing about it is learning and understanding about culture shock. Okay,
Yes.
especially in this series where in TNG they've seen so many new aliens, so they're not that much different. But at this point where you're looking and truly looking at someone so completely different from you, and learning to have to communicate with each other, but not just communicate with each other, but see the commonality of man inside of each other to work together for a common goal. That they're so completely different, and they don't even speak on the same language structure. But
their language. It's an entire language built off of metaphor.
yes,
It's so cool.
it's Drax's nightmare.
Yeah,
It's so great.
Cool.
goodness.
I loved that episode.
Darmok.
Not on my top 10, but if you guys all say it, I will absolutely not fight it.
It is a must see. I mean,
It's
how many
not on my
times
top 10.
But how many
What?
times do people say this stuff? You know, you got to know the inside joke.
It's like hold on, I have to understand Dan's. Come at me, bro.
Wasn't this the first episode after Redemption?
It is in season 5. I can't remember.
I think it's right after Redemption, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, not my top 10. Joanie and I were actually talking before the show about this episode, and she made a very good argument why this is a very good episode.
Make that same argument again, Joanie.
It's just overcoming a boundary, and I think it applies a lot today. That that people could be fighting, or if they just stopped and actually listened to what they were saying and slowed it down again. It's two people. It's just like what you said earlier. It's just two people coming together with the same idea, and they want to understand each other. And it's cool that you're going to a different planet. It kind of shows you, don't hate aliens, understand them first.
So this is a great episode, but it is definitely not one I could watch, push rewind, and watch again. That's all I have to say. As were many episodes I could watch back to back to back. I could put on Wrath of Khan, rewind it, put on Wrath of Khan, rewind it, watch Wrath of Khan. Can't do it with this episode. Once a year, tops.
Dan, I can only say one thing to counteract that argument, okay? Darmok. And Jalad. At Tanagra.
Okay. Move on.
Trevor?
I'm looking at other things, and I'm like, there's better episodes, I think. Like, it's great, and it's iconic, but...
So
But
what
yeah,
I'm...
There's better episodes.
But it's a must-see, though. So people would
But
understand.
is Disaster a better episode?
I think Disaster is a much better episode.
So what I've learned here is me and Joanie are right, and you guys are wrong.
Yeah!
So
I actually think this is something that should be put to the side.
I'm putting it to the side, unfortunately.
Because I do think there will be more controversial shows. Because I'm very much on the fence. I actually can accept this being in the top 10, but I'm sort of with Dan. I'm like, this is a great show, but is it top 10? So.
All right.
Unfortunately, no Darmok for me.
Yes.
So let's jump over to one of you guys. Throw something out there.
Yeah, who's up? Is that Joanie?
It might be
That'd
me.
be...
I don't know the name of this episode, and it's going to drive me nuts.
Describe it for us, and we can probably
Okay.
find it off the great internet.
All right. It's where Riker falls in love with an alien that
I know what you're talking.
I don't know the name of the episode, but I forgot about this one.
Right?
And yes.
Hey, we're jumping up and down. We know. Okay.
Okay.
So, and it's such a huge.
So
It's
for everyone
kind
else
of
out there,
Is this with the asexual alien, or is this?
yes.
Yes.
Correct. Yes. And especially in this day and time, especially right now, if people were to watch that episode, they would see it and they would love it because it's one of
The
those episodes that
Outcast.
does it. Yeah, it
Yes.
doesn't slap
What is
you.
it?
What?
The Outcast.
The
The
Outcast.
Outcast. Okay. So The Outcast, watch it because it does apply to today's world right now. Because
20 years ahead of time.
Equality just happened. And it's one of those things where it doesn't slap you in the face with, oh, well, these people were born this way or these people weren't born this way. It's one of those things where Riker falls in love with somebody that decides they want to be female, but they have a non-sex, genetics.
They're an androgynous race.
Yeah, exactly. They're asexual or whatever they are. And it's just such an insight to the opposite side where they actually, what's that word? Where they
lobotomize, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At the end of
it's
this
so
episode.
sad, but it is heart-touching, and it applies to many things, not just equality, but it applies to many things with people who are different and decide to be different.
So with this episode, I'm going to say this episode I mention more than just about any episode when I'm talking about. One is recent equality changes that we've had in this state or in this country. One. Two, I use this as, again, I'm going to touch on this, the Star Wars versus Star Trek is the whole black and white versus shades of gray. And also one thing that you see in Star Trek that you don't see, the moral decision can come off the wrong decision in Star Trek. You don't see that in Star Wars or some of the other things where this is clearly the wrong thing. They lobotomize this person, due to this thing. And there's almost no other show as evident of the Prime Directive as this one.
Mm-hmm.
It really just shows you, it hits you because you go, oh my goodness, how could you do that? That is the wrong move. And that's why it hits home, because you see the wrong thing. You don't have this happy-go-lucky feeling like, wow, Picard made the right decision, or Riker did a good job there. You're blown away with how wrong this decision is, and it morally impacts you. I love this episode. I love it. Yeah, I love this episode.
What was it called again? I forgot.
The Outcast.
Outcast.
So
Okay.
I was talking about this with Kyle yesterday. Once again, we were just naming off so many episodes, and for some reason I completely forgot about writing on the list. But yes to everything you just said. I mean, you can think.
I had forgotten about it too. It
think
deserves to be here.
Whatever you want about the gay rights and equality and all that kind of stuff, and that's not exactly the issue as much as Star Trek's once again example of examining the human condition through hyperbole, satire, allegory. And this one does it better than most episodes. Through using this character who appears like a female, but is an androgynous, and believes herself to be female, and falling in love. And as you said, very subtly, it doesn't slap you in the face with it, with a man and something that thinks it's a woman falling in love. Mm-hmm. It's not as offensive to, right-wing conservatives with, two guys making out or something like that.
Well, it tricks you into thinking a different way. It tricks you into it because you didn't expect it that way. You didn't see it as hurtful.
But that's what's great about it, is that it makes you think, and it makes you question, and it makes you understand a different part of the world. And that's why absolutely the Outcast has to go on there.
That is perfect.
Epitomizes Star Trek.
So, yeah.
Great pick.
It deserves to be on the list, absolutely. I feel silly for forgetting about it.
I remember talking
too. This is one of my all-time favorite episodes, and I didn't even have it on my list, and it's definitely on there.
I just thought of it.
This is probably my number 2 favorite episode. So.
Yeah, that one's. I can't believe I didn't write it down. Okay, we're all in agreement. That one's on there. Dan, what you got?
All right, let me see here. I'm going to go with one, and this is I've talked about this one with people, because people either love this episode or they hate this episode. So this might spark some controversy. But The Inner Light.
Zach's face. It was like,
See, I'm going to say some people love it, some people hate it. It's regarded as one of the best episodes.
Trevor, are you looking it up?
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
Okay, so they come across a satellite and they examine it.
Oh yeah, I remember this episode.
oh
yeah! And for everyone else, it's he lives out an entire lifetime.
I remember it now.
In a matter of 20 minutes or so. Picard lives out an entire lifetime of an alien race. He lives on an alien world, falls in love, has children, has grandchildren, and he falls and lives out their entire civilization's lifetime to understand and fully understand that civilization, and then is returned once he dies. And it was a piece of a library, so that way they could project themselves so that someone else would know. It's not on my list. It was debated on my list. It did win a Saturn Award for great writing, and honestly, I do think it's definitely one of those top 10 Star Trek moments. for the finale, whenever he's returned home,
And he plays
the same song in that little flute.
Yeah, he pulls out the little flute and he plays the same song. It's a powerful episode, and it's kind of cool to see. You see Picard in a completely different episode. You see this whole life of him living, and he's not Jean-Luc Picard. I like it.
He is at first, but he forgets.
He changes. He slowly caves.
Cool.
So great episode. I'm back and forth on this one. Trevor's saying no.
I like it. I think it's a great episode, but once again, that's one of those episodes where I believe it's not in the like stratosphere of best TNG. I think it's good TNG.
It's like that top 15. Like I don't know if I can put this on something and leave something else off, and I don't know what's back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would like, for me, this is in the same category of Darmok and Jalad. Mm-hmm. For me.
Joanie?
Hey, it was what I wanted. I knew it was going to be either way.
I always like stories with people out of their comfort zone, and it tells a different story. It's very detailed too. You know, I say yes.
So we're split in the middle. Two of us don't know.
No,
one says no. One's kind of like both y'all are friends. I'm gonna put it aside for right now.
Yeah,
I would say that above Darmok, to be honest, but.
I got one that I love
next?
that touches my heart.
What?
And that's Reunion. No, wait, it's not. Yeah, it's Reunion.
You threw us there.
So, one, you've got the whole symbol. You've got like Worf finds out he's a daddy. That in and of itself is a bombshell. That, you know, let's be honest, would freak most people out. But that is almost secondary to the primary plot of Worf. Picard is, you know, trying to help the Klingon High Council transition to a new chancellor.
The arbiter of succession.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's like a mystery. It's so cool.
And then you find out that Dura, his Parmakai, whatever her name is, she's diving into all of this. Like, why is Worf's family involved in this High Council nonsense? This doesn't make any sense. And then by the end of it, she figures it out, and Duras kills her. And my favorite, like the most manly thing I've ever seen in Star Trek, when he goes,
she doesn't even care.
Him, and he does not care what anyone says. And like Duras tries to throw him off, like, you have no rights here. It's like, she was my mate. And everybody, his own guys go, whoa, okay.
It's one of those moments where I got up and cheered. I was like, yeah! And
like Riker bursts into the room and says, war! And he doesn't even slow down.
He doesn't even stop.
Doesn't even slow down.
Think.
Just
done.
Cracked his head open like a cantaloupe.
I'm a huge fan of Taylor. I'm a huge fan of hers.
Yes. She's only in like what, 2-3 episodes?
2.
Yeah.
The one where they hook up, and the one where the baby comes in.
Yeah, Emissary and Reunion.
More. She needs more. Like that was actually that was one of my other ones. I admire her so much for being not a he woman, or like, oh, we can do it too. She was just boom, badass. She was just done. You didn't even have to like look at her and be like, oh, is she trying to be a badass? Like, no, she is.
She is. She just is. Mm-hmm. Deal with it.
Huge fan with her. Yeah.
So this episode, not on my list, but I'm going to argue for it. One, it is the first episode in Next Gen where Worf really became a truly dynamic character. Mm-hmm. He started having really elements, and really it molded him for the rest of the entire series. There's touches of it, but you really saw him as this dynamic, conflicted person. When you see his son, and it just led to a lot. I feel like I really loved Worf's character after that episode. Before that episode, you could have filled it with Tasha Yar, But I loved his character after that episode going forward. Second, it led to the whole Duras family and the whole Klingon Civil War, and
Duras
none of
is
that
very
stuff would have happened. Gowron would have never been a character if this episode didn't happen. Again, not on my top 10. Fantastic episode. Zach, go.
We have to have something Klingon on here. We've not gotten to a Klingon episode yet, and something Klingon must be on here. And there are 3 on my list that I can't decide between. This one is one of them. This is one of them. But I have to bring out the other 2 just to talk about them.
All right, go for it.
Sins of the Father and Redemption, and they're all like.
God, they're good.
You might as well call it one episode. It's literally Sins of the Father, Redemption, and Reunion, and even Emissary are almost like one big 4-part episode.
It's like over 4 or 5 seasons.
But they're still connected. They're very connected. Like, they're very relevant to each other.
So the only moment that I could argue against Reunion that with Sins of the Father beats it on is Picard and Worf walk into the council and self-sacrificing, the name of his entire family genealogical history will now be shamed. Mm-hmm. For something that his father didn't do, Worf will be excommunicated and no longer be considered a Klingon. For something he knows he didn't do, his father didn't do. But for this, to keep the Klingon Empire together for the sake of honor, because he's such a Klingon, that episode.
Yeah. And that, if I was going, because there's that great 2-parter with him, like in the Klingon Civil War, and that's good. But if I had to pick a Worf-centric episode, it would either be Sins of the Father or Reunion. But, like, at the end of the day, you can never, at least for me, if I had to choose between a moment that really defined me as a person, where I choose to be dishonored in front of my people, to where the only woman I have ever loved and the mother of my child is murdered, if I have to pick with emotional resonance, it's going to be Reunion.
I'm perfectly okay with this. I just really wanted to bring up the other Klingon episodes.
As you should have.
I want a Klingon episode on here. It has to be one.
I agree with that one. That one was very close to my heart when I saw it, because I was so sad, because I hadn't watched the whole Civil War. I hadn't watched that. And when I saw Kaylar, I was like, oh, I want to be her. She is the coolest person in the galaxy. And then that happened. And I was like,
yeah,
please bring her back, because she's just, she's amazing. And she's one of my favorite characters. And sometimes characters, for me, can make an episode, for sure.
Okay, so we're going to stay with Reunion. But there's one other Klingon episode.
I vote Reunion over Sins of the Father.
I'm okay with it, like the not having Sins of the Father on here with Reunion. But there's one other episode I want to bring up, and it's in season 5. It's where they find out that Kahless comes back.
Oh.
It's oh God, what's it called?
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, anyway, I know.
Kahless appears before Worf. And the entire episode is going back and forth. Is this Kahless? Is this not Kahless? And you find out it's a genetic clone of Kahless. But people still follow him, and they have faith in him. And what I loved about the story was it's an allegory for the idea of faith. And even if you have faith in something that's not right, even if you have faith in something that's you find out is scientifically wrong or whatever, if there is
rightful heir.
Rightful heir.
Yeah.
If you find out that you have faith in something that's non-existent, the idea of having faith in something makes us better and is better off for us than not. Mm-hmm. And it's just an episode I enjoy. So, but Reunion we'll put on the list as our quintessential Klingon episode to symbolize the entire Worf story.
Yeah,
it will be Reunion where
it's the most powerful Worf.
Yeah,
for sure.
So we're coming down to our last spot.
Are we? Wow. That went so quick.
So here we go. We got Measure of a Man, Best of Both Worlds, Family, Chain of Command, QQ. I can't say that.
We did it again.
I can't say it. Tapestry, Disaster, The Outcast, and Reunion, with so many other great ones on here.
Man.
So whose turn is it to throw something out there? I don't even remember.
It's actually you.
Okay. Yesterday's Enterprise
Huh.
Oh, yeah.
with
That
Enterprise
is
C.
on my list.
But
It's not above another one that I haven't mentioned yet on my list, but it is on my list. I love that episode.
It's weird and different in seeing a world where the Klingons and the Federation are at war, and you see a militaristic Picard and a militaristic Riker, and Tasha Yar is still alive, and she goes back in time and self-sacrifices herself to go back with the Enterprise C back in time just so that they can die. Literally, just goes back in time to die. Because I'm not going to talk about her Romulan forced love child. 'Cause that was terrible.
I like
it
Sela
was
as a
exciting to
character.
see her. I
wasn't a fan of that one.
I
I love Tasha Yar, but
like Steele because I think it gave Tasha Yar a reason to have the attitude she has as an actress. I guess, I don't know. I don't like he, man, woman, like I can do it too type characters. And that's just me. I'm crazy about the women who just are instead of, it seemed to me that she was trying to prove herself, but being a Romulan, it made sense to me, I guess.
I love Yesterday's Enterprise. Trevor, I'm seeing you nodding and shaking your head. And
One, don't argue for Yesterday's Enterprise if you don't like Sela. I'm just throwing that out there.
What? I like that episode. I just don't like what happens after that episode.
I like
it's
that
like
episode.
I like the Phoenix saga, but I just don't like it when they change Jean Grey afterwards.
Okay. I like that episode. I love the final scene of that episode where Guinan's sitting down with Geordi and it's just so simple. Tell me about Tasha Yar. And Geordi just tilts his head. I'm getting goosebumps because that's one of those episodes I'm going to start tearing up because I love Tasha Yar's character. I really like it, that premonition. It has so much trust in it. Picard's trust in Guinan to make a decision. It's a really dynamic, really good episode.
Trevor?
I think it's a really good episode. I'm not sure it's top 10 worthy.
So Dan, are you voting yay or nay? If this is our last spot, if it's not going on, I need to hear something that's better than it that should go on it.
Yeah, so here's the thing is I have this on my top 10, but I have one higher.
What is that?
That is Encounter at Farpoint.
No.
Not
Yes.
even close.
Absolutely.
No.
It is
It's a terrible episode.
No, it is not. It is a fantastic episode.
It's,
First of all, it has a scene with DeForest Kelley walking down a hallway with
God.
Data that will just make you tear up
Instantly
and cry.
cried, not kidding.
Such a
Instantly
good
cried.
episode. You see,
okay, hold on.
the
Wait.
first meeting with Riker and Data is amazing. It instantly puts you in that tone about seeking out new life and Prime Directive with the big disc, starfish
Jellyfish.
alien at the end, whatever it is, a giant sand dollar. It may have been cheesy, it may have been campy, but there's so many elements of Star Trek that were in that episode, and if you're gonna see, it's must-see episodes, that episode you have to see to understand Next Gen. It puts you into learning about the characters, knowing the characters right away. There's so much great little hidden humors, hidden gems. There's so many references to Farpoint throughout the series. It is a great episode.
That scene is
Great
so
episode.
close to my heart.
It passes. It's a passing of the torch episode, and we all love Next Gen. That passes the torch in that episode. I love it. It is one of my favorite episodes. And you get to meet Q. They are put on trial. Humanity is put on trial in that episode, and they make the right decision. It is such a great episode.
There are elements of this episode that I love, but it as a whole, I think it's far more boring than Corbin Night Maneuver.
The what?
I think there's parts of this episode that I enjoy, the DeForest Kelley, Q, but for the most part, I think this episode is far more boring than most of the TNG.
Yeah, you hit the real high points of it, Dan. You really do. But this episode has some major low points.
Yeah, but we're talking must-see. We're not talking most dynamic episode.
And-
This
Okay,
is a
hold on.
must-see
Time out.
episode.
If we're going to talk about passing of the torch, then I want to bring up one other one, which is a passing of the torch. Unification, in which Spock and Data have that moment where they're looking at each other, and Spock and Data are talking about humanity, and Data says, "You realize you are shunning everything I'm looking for to achieve in my life." And if we're going to talk about passing of the torch, that conversation right there hits those two characters on the head, where Spock is like pushing down his humanity, and Data is only looking to achieve it. And that's that dichotomy right there with the two. If we're going to talk about passing the torch, that's it.
Is that the episode where Data actually uses the Vulcan neck pinch?
Yes.
That, I flipped out when I saw that. Not joking. I flipped out because those two are my favorite characters. And when two things of my favorite things are there,
so
boom,
unification, and sorry, I know Trevor wants to jump in so bad.
Oh, I do, but please continue.
I do.
Unification.
Can I just throw one other one out there?
Such a great idea of an episode, and you're right, great parts. But really, unification, when you watch it, it's not that great of an episode. There's great parts. You know, Data's Vulcan neck pinch, the parts with Spock and Data together. It's really not that great of a two-parter. It's nowhere near Chain of Command. It's nowhere near Best of Both Worlds.
That's why I'm putting it way
Marvel.
down here. But I'm saying if we're going to talk about callbacks and passing of the torch, I think that one scene with Data and Spock is so much better.
About passing the torch in season 4 instead of passing season, what is that, 5 or 6 almost?
That's 5.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about passing the torch in the first episode.
Which is a great callback, and it's a great it's a great scene. I agree with you. But the rest of the episode, the next hour and 10 minutes, with the exception of the points with Q in it, at the beginning and the end.
You have to ask yourself this question. So you've got the moments where you're introducing the main cast. Those are all very important. They're always important in any series. You've got the moments when you're introducing who the closest thing to an antagonist TNG has, which is Q, because he is, or a frenemy, however you want to call him. And you've got, DeForest Kelley in there. But all total, those are not, those are relatively small parts of the episode. They don't make up a lot of screen time. The overwhelming screen time of that episode is them flying to Farpoint. It's a crappy station. Dealing with the crappy people of it. Dealing with the fact that it's an alien.
The big enemies are the Ferengi.
Yeah.
So, I can't go for that one.
The Ferengi, which are,
Ferengi or Romulans? I'm going Romulans.
Threats they have ever produced. There are great moments to Farpoint. There are important moments to Farpoint. But as a whole, that episode is season 1 of TNG, and that particular episode is really the low point of TNG for me, honestly. And after that, it really goes up, and it really rockets up. So if we're talking must watch, and if we're really saying you need to see this, I would quite literally make a YouTube compilation of the 10 to 15 minutes of that two-parter people have to see, and then move on.
We still have those ones we put off to the side. Now, any of those better than this one? I know we're fighting for this spot.
Absolutely.
Darmok or Inner Light. Those are all good things. All good things. Everybody right?
I would say all good things are in fact better than Farpoint, but if I have to choose Farpoint if I have to choose Inner Light or Darmok and Jalad, no.
Oh, the only other one I was going to throw out there was Relics with Scotty.
Oh, Scotty.
That's a fun one, but it's not must watch.
Yeah, it's just the last one on my list. I'm like, hey, it's fun. Passing of the torch, Relics, Scotty, whatever. Moving on. So, we're not agreeing on unification. Apparently we're not agreeing on yesterday's Enterprise. We're not agreeing on an encounter at Farpoint. The ones we were really going back and forth on, Darmok and Inner Light.
Inner Light.
Which
can I throw one more out there just for talk, Vic?
Of course.
Why not?
I like it. A lot of people don't. It's The Chase.
The Chase.
So that's the one where Picard meets his old professor, his old archaeological professor. He gives him the little ancient dolls that fold out. And basically, it's a chase. They're literally trying to find this endpoint of this. Basically, the connection being that connects Romulans and Cardassians, and they're all children of this being that they're searching out, and all of them have clues. And Cardassians, Romulans, Klingons all have to work together to find this ultimate being that is the root of who all these species are. It's a really powerful episode. A little cheesy at times, but
it's another great allegory of the idea that all of us come from the same point. All races, black, white, brown, red, everything. We're all coming from the same innate human being that we all evolved from the same form. But, I think it's more on the ends of Elysium than it is District 9 on that allegory.
So, one other thing about the episode, though, is you see so much excitement in Picard. Very stoic character. He is so excited about searching out this mystery. And I love his enthusiasm in the episode. He's like a little kid in the episode. It's archaeology. It's his passion. It's what he almost gave up Starfleet for. And he wants to literally go chase down this amazing mystery. He shows a lot of emotion in this episode.
Well, I think you convinced me, Dan. You convinced me to vote for the Inner Light.
Okay, so this made me think of another one. I do think it's a good episode. I do think it's a neat episode, but this is another one that I think I can understand if nobody agrees with me, but I do think it's an honorable mention, and that's Contagion. And that is when the Enterprise goes into the Romulan neutral zone to find the Iconian Gate. And it's dealing with ancient technology, and they find the USS Yamato, and it blows up in front of them. Okay, so Zach clearly doesn't like this episode at all.
I don't even remember it.
Okay.
Johnny was giving me the face of sleepy, and I'm over here yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Moving on.
Let's vote for what we got on there.
Contagion is a cool premise, but it's ultimately an episode that doesn't have any wow to me. It's a good episode. It's a good premise, good topic. I enjoy it, but it's not even close to my top 10.
So I think we're gonna have to go back to those two: Darmok or Inner Light.
Those are two such different episodes too.
They
Could we do 10.5 again?
Yeah, we did 10.5 on the last one.
10.5. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
TNG, the top 10.5. Number 1,
Yeah.
Measure of a Man. Number 2, Best of Both Worlds. 3, Family. Which, really, we can make that the 0.5 because that's a epilogue to Best of Both Worlds. So
I'm okay with
2.5, Family. 3, Chain of Command. 4, Joanie say it. It's Q.
Who?
Exactly. Thank you. Because I can't say that. 5, Tapestry. 6, Disaster. 7, Darmok. 8, Outcast. 9, Inner Light. And 10, Reunion. They are so many good episodes that we named off. So many other ones like The Naked Now, All Good Things, Inheritance, Brothers, Offspring. All those Klingon episodes. Everything we just named off except for Encounter at Farpoint. There's so many great episodes to watch. Oh my gosh. Man. Oh, I just want to put a dishonorable mention out there for the season 2 finale, Shades of Grey, which apparently they ran out of material because this one is a clip show of the best of Riker, and it's only season 2. So, it's did you like season 1? Let's just show you all the Riker scenes in one act.
It was like a Mari episode of Where Are They Now? It was awful.
It was terrible.
It's terrible. It's probably my least favorite episode right there with where
It's definitely worse. It's definitely the worst finale.
Definitely.
A finale, you saved that. You got lazy. That was lazy. Oh, it's so
it's
bad.
hilarious because like that's the season finale for season 2. So they get to season 3 and they're like, man, we should really bring our A game for this.
That's a big difference.
You know what that reminds me of? When you were a kid and you had mechanical pencils and you stuck them in your head. That's what that reminds me of.
I kid you not, I did that a lot as a kid after I saw it. George was like,
I'm stabbing myself.
So we've got 10 and a half great episodes, really 11. We've got 11 great episodes, and including 2-parters, and we just named off one terrible one. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
To your mission, explore strange new world.
Man, I love Star Trek.
Me too.
So, once again, this is Star Trek Week here at the Nerd Union. We've been gracefully joined by 2 of my favorite people on Earth, Dan, the man, and Joanie Brosas. Good times. Good. I'm so glad you guys get to join us. And, of course, Trevor Law joining me tonight. Thank you all for joining us for the return to the State of the Nerd Union. Check us out all week long. It's Star Trek week, and follow us this weekend when we're catching up on the Star Trek convention where you should be. Y'all take it easy. Peace out.